Hello everyone and welcome to the Commexis Cast, all the news you need to know from our inbox to yours. Today we're talking about Google AMP stories not meeting publisher expectations. Hello everyone, I'm Matthew McGordy, the videographer and podcaster here at Commexis, and today I'm joined by the lead strategist at Commexis, Philip Brooks.
Well, I don't know if I can live up to that introduction. Please temper your expectations.
That's true. So today we're talking about Google AMP stories. Just so you guys know what they are, Google AMP stories are kind of like Instagram and Snapchat stories, except instead of being video that is posted on these platforms, they are created out of the Google AMP accelerated mobile page system. So basically they are meant to be created and then found through Google search and be able to interact with them in a more visual, vertical fashion.
And one would assume, based on the accelerated mobile page format, that it is optimized for mobile. So it should therefore be given precedence in search results when showing up for organic results. As to whether or not that's accurate, we don't know yet, but it seems that that would be not necessarily accurate based on what we're about to hear.
So about 6 months ago, Google AMP stories were released to a small set of test publishers. There was about 6 or 8 of them, and then in mid-February they were released to basically every publisher. I know I was doing some research into them to see if we could do anything with them. So really interesting stuff. I really like the format of them. CNN does a lot of really nice ones. Something to note here is that they're not just Instagram or Snapchat stories that appear in search results, but also you can link them from your site to also live there. So for example, I'm able to look at all of CNN's on their webpage devoted to these stories, which also helps you with SEO rankings and other things like that.
Yeah, you're not passing off what we in the business, because we like to use technical terms, the link juice to your social media profile as opposed to your actual web page. So in that respect, AMP's always been a good kind of arbiter for whether or not the social media bump is worth it, and you'd rather give those links and those page views to your website rather than give them right away for the free to Facebook. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that this is from a piece on Digiday by Willens. He spoke to a couple of publishers who are sort of expressing their concerns. Some of them are expressing a little bit of optimism, but there's a couple problems that these people and these publishers are facing, and one of them is some publishers are sort of scaling back how much they're willing to put into these AMP stories since they released and since they've been testing them, for problems such as, it's unclear how they're going to become, or if they're going to become, monetized at all.
Yeah.
For example, I know we talked about Google AMP stories in the past in mid-February when they were announced for all publishers, and it was kind of like, how are they going to monetize them? Are they going to allow you to do branded content for a brand in a story or something like that? But also, one big problem was that if I were to pull my phone up right now and try and go to one of these publishers, it is unlikely that I will be able to Google search result find it on my phone unless I'm using an experimental version of Google search, which you can use.
Right.
It is open for people to use and test for that reason, but it makes it a lot harder for these stories to get found. I know CNN probably just on the 16th had 4 of them get released according to their website. I'm going to be showing you one of them hopefully now, but it's one of those things where people are getting very questionable as to how much resource they should put into it because it's very experimental.
It's still in what, for lack of a better term, the soft launch phase, because we don't know if it's been officially rolled out yet. But I think CNN's being extremely proactive by basically saying, well, let's get this content out there. Hopefully it's evergreen enough that when people search these terms, when they finally do throw that switch, we're gonna basically optimize for all those results, and we're gonna really own those until most people catch up, and hopefully in that time they will have had enough traction via organic and the actual crawlers to hit those pages to basically say, they might even get something in a text box on the page or something like that to basically say, they're the most authoritative on that particular keyword or topic. I don't know how accurate that's going to be, but it's a good strategy to try to get out ahead of Google before they make a change, or to optimize for something is eventually going to come.
Yeah, and a Google spokesperson said that they saw AMP Stories as an experimental format and that it tried to set publisher expectations accordingly. Quote, "The purpose of the developer preview is not necessarily to drive traffic, but to show what is possible with the technology and give publishers the space and freedom to experiment with this new format for visual storytelling."
That is just silly. Like that. Why would you do it unless you're trying to get traffic? That's the end goal with all of this.
I think, and we talked a little bit before the show about this, I think it's one of those issues where they want to test this out and they want to give people the opportunity to experiment with it as a sort of soft launch, but by calling it a preview but soft launching it, people have those expectations of, well, this should be actively helping me while I'm creating things.
Right.
It reminds me, Snapchat stories are something that they launched and brands found a way to integrate into them. But, it's not like Snapchat released stories and then went, oh, well, they're not supposed to help you, even though people found ways to make
it just seems kind of, if ultimately the goal is to find a way to monetize this, then they have to show value for it in the beginning and not expect the actual testers to demonstrate the value. It seems kind of circular logic, in my opinion, because, eventually you're going to have to show some sort of return on investment for the amount, even if it's not paid, the amount of time and effort being put in to create this content. If it doesn't actually have a value as far as driving traffic, then nobody's going to use it. So you have to at least show some sort of value intrinsic into the format. There has to be some reason why I'm going to use this over a regular AMP page, or if I want to use a Snapchat story or whatever. So there has to be some sort of implied value there. So hopefully they're not just assuming everybody's going to be there. This is honestly, sadly, it's the testing model for most games that are these days, where it's like, we throw something out that's not really finished and let you guys figure out how to find all the bugs. So
yeah, I think what'll probably help the most is if Google was willing to not just host these on the experimental side, because there's no reason why I can't, especially with some of these publishers like CNN, why I shouldn't be able to just go on my phone, pop it open, do a quick search, and go, oh, hey, let me test this out on my phone, and see it actually in the Google results, because that will give them both traffic, but also it'll help them in SEO rankings by hosting all of these things on their site that are supposed, from what Google says, supposed to help you.
I guess the other point is, it will be cannibalizing paid traffic from their own side, so that's a little bit, but again, if you're going to be, testing a new format or testing a new product, you're going to have to make that trade-off somewhere. You're going to have to decide that unless this is going to go launch right to paid, you're going to have to make that determination before you launch it.
That's a good point. I wonder if maybe they'll do paid stories, like First Stories paid, or First Stories branded content that we're paying. Same thing, but
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
If you're hosting it on your own site, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's branded. It doesn't matter if it's sponsored or anything, because you're basically sponsoring your own piece of content.
Well, if say CNN, for example, just because they're my go-to, or Mashable, maybe Mashable's a really good example. If they made a branded content piece that was a story, and then obviously they're hosting on their site, probably the brand's hosting it on their site as well, but then.
Yeah, I wonder if the issue becomes, monetizing content that's hosted on another site, as opposed to, Google being, Google holding the actual content for, paid ads, that kind of thing. This is something that's on your site, so I don't know how they can monetize that. Maybe I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But you're right. Maybe it would be a subscription-based service where you get X amount of branded stories a month through AMP stories. I'm not sure, but that's a good point.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on how this develops. I think Google Ad Stories are really cool and interesting, especially for Google search.
If I was going to put a term on it, I would say we're all pretty amped about AMP stories.
Thanks, Phil.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Well, thank everybody for Thanks everybody for tuning in to today's episode of the Commexis Cast Daily. Check us out tomorrow for more of the latest trending news. Have a great day.